This episode is brought to you by hypnotism. You are feeling very sleepy, and when I snap my fingers, you will go on your computer and open up your web browser and go to patreon.com/Azure Scapegoats, and you will become a big boy patron. Give me 100 of your money. Snap. Snap.
I was struggling so hard not to laugh there.
Yeah, we were just talking before we began the episode about these like dominatrix women and men that exist on
the magic of the internet.
Yeah, on the magic of the internet, where you can subscribe to and buy hypnotism clips where there's no sexual intercourse at all, and where it's all just like there's no one having sex. It's just a lady, typically a lady, telling you to go give her money, essentially.
Yep.
It's a hypnotism fetish.
Indeed.
Where I guess people just get off on the idea of being hypnotized by, I guess, a dominatrix, or maybe just by anyone.
Yeah.
And so they would pay tons of money to be in like a Skype call to be hypnotized by this lady. And apparently sometimes she would just be like, "Oh, now you feel a compelling urge to give me $1,000."
Yes.
Yeah, and these people make a lot of money doing this, which is incredible. Like I found
You said she made like $1 million a year.
I found from an article I read online. I can't remember. It's a while back, but I found and saw the Twitter profile of this dominatrix who hypnotized people, and she said proudly on the website that she was making in the high end of the six figures, like in dollars every year. And now she wanted to double it. So she was basically pressuring all her fans to donate more money to her. So it's...
Jeez.
Yeah, she's never gotten naked on camera. And all she does is hypnotize people who have a fetish for hypnotism.
Oh, that reminds me. Fuck.
I just want to say, dear listener, if the goat's intro there helped, please let us know and we'll do it some more.
Yeah. Let us know if you're into that.
Yeah, especially if you will give money, that's maybe, especially if you give them money.
Yeah. If you give me $1,000, I will make an audio recording where I pretend to hypnotize.
I will do it for much less. I'll do it for like 100. Even a 50.
Yeah, I definitely feel like I got into the wrong career on this podcasting thing.
Forget this fucking philosophy bullshit. Forget city planning now. We have to get into the hypnotism market.
So this entire thing reminded me of the e-girls phenomenon. There's this one British girl who she's what's called an e-girl, which basically means she's not a porn star. She's never gotten naked. She's never just never been naked on camera. Like, she posts selfies of herself, and she does the weird anime hentai face, ahiago.
Ah, yes. Big fan.
The tongue out, eyes up.
Yeah,
exactly. She is a millionaire. Like, quite literally, she is a millionaire. I've seen her house tour. She lives in like a fucking mansion, like a villa.
It's amazing.
I mean, just looking at her, I was on her Patreon, and she just gets so much money, and like she has so many tiers, and like if you give her like the most money, I think it must have been like $10,000 or something. I think you get like access to her private Snapchat.
That's big. Yeah, that's big in the porn star thing, that you pay on Patreon or some other website, and you get access to the private Snapchat.
But the thing is, she doesn't get naked on the private Snapchat either.
Oh.
That's genius.
She just sends you other pictures.
That's a ripoff.
That are like exclusive, but like she's still not a porn star. Like she still doesn't do anything sex related for money. She doesn't masturbate or pretend to masturbate, or I don't think she does like moaning or anything like weirdly sexual like that. She just takes pictures of herself, sometimes in revealing clothing.
That's it.
So wow. she's a cosplayer or something? I know there's a lot of cosplaying models who have amazing careers from just cosplaying, basically dressing up as video game or movie characters and going to conventions.
Jessica Nigri comes to mind.
Yeah.
She's one of those classic cosplayers that every fucking neckbeard on the world drools after, but she's never been naked.
Right.
Amazing.
And yet Jessica Nigri is probably a millionaire too. Now I think about it.
Probably.
Like, in all likelihood, she's probably a millionaire.
I'm jealous.
And I'm not saying all of this just to like shit on them or make fun of them.
No, we are very jealous. We want that money as well. That's why we went into this podcasting business and are now regretting our
decision. Oh yeah, sure. That was the original idea.
Totally. That's how this came about.
But yeah, no, it's basically like women exploiting the fucking fetishes of men who just, or I mean, I guess anyone, but I'm mostly men who just have way too much money to throw on needless crap.
Please throw some of that money our way. Come on.
Well, I mean, to anyone that says that capitalism never produces anything meaningful, I mean, just look at the hypnotism porn that's coming out of late capitalist society.
Come on,
you're owned.
Yeah. Before we started recording, you mentioned you had a video on your computer.
Yes. Yeah, I really want to talk about this video.
Yes, please do.
I really want to talk. Okay, so
hang on. Is this in the context of like, that Cuban movie director you were talking about from like the 70s or
Russ Meyer? He's very much American. So shout out to all the Russ Meyer fans out there. The socialist.
I've heard the name before.
Yes, we talk about. We're both big fans of Russ Meyer's work.
Okay.
Yeah,
that might be where I've heard.
If you ever want to watch very progressive 70s porn from a socialist director who also loves big titties, check out Russ Meyer.
Yep, it's magical.
Oh, I love that. A socialist who also loves big titties.
Yeah, essentially.
That's a Twitter bio.
They call me Russ Meyer.
Make that their Twitter bio.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, I have this video that makes me laugh harder than any video I think I've ever seen, which is, I don't know, there's this thing called race play, where people are into, in some way or not, it covers a big spectrum, I guess.
Yeah, it involves basically incorporating race within, like, sexual play.
In every way you can imagine. So for some,
it can be positive, it can be, really just using outright racism and whatnot, but it
Yeah.
doesn't necessarily have to do that, but it can.
I've only ever seen the really racist stuff, but that's
a very visible aspect of it, yeah.
Yeah, and I have a video. It's incredible, and it's to me, it's in my brain, it's in the same league as the hypnotism stuff, because it's this young lady, I want to say early 20s, and the whole video is her standing in a tank top and like looking, it's the camera's looking up at her, and she's yelling angrily at the camera, and just repeatedly and angrily, the most angry use of the N-word that I've heard out of like a Quentin Tarantino movie is just repeated over and over again until the video ends, and she's yelling at you for being a bad N-word essentially the whole video. And again, it's this, I don't want to call it a racket, because I'm guess like there has to be an audience for this.
Yeah, there is.
There has to be people who really like this stuff. And I'm not saying this to shame anyone, but just it's incredibly jarring as someone from the outside looking at this stuff and just seeing a very, very angry young white girl repeatedly saying the N-word in a tank top looking down at the camera.
I think I'm not a sexologist. I'm not in any way educated within the field of sex. In fact, I might be the least qualified.
Oh, yeah.
Considering I don't particularly feel sexual attraction. But to my understanding, a fetish is essentially a taboo. It's feeling sexual gratification from something which just you're not supposed to do or like scat fetish. It's just like we have natural impulses to avoid bacteria and feces, but the scat fetish is like, yeah, no, I'm into that. And I feel like the race play and the age play might also be that thing where it's like, I know this is wrong, like socially this is weird, really weird, and the fact that it's weird and fucked up is what's totally doing it for me.
I think you're right, and it also, I think you're absolutely
for some
right.
people, yeah.
Yeah, and that kind of leads us into the topic of the day too, which is about the permissiveness or the growing acceptance of more like alternative sexual behaviors in society.
Yeah, we totally had this topic planned out, people. Exactly.
Yeah.
This is the topic.
So, if you're wondering, the thesis statement for today is gay people are abominations. They go against the word of the Lord our God.
And that's why they're fucking great.
Yeah.
Yeah. If there was a problem question in this thesis that we're writing in audio form now, it would be: gay people, are they good?
That reminds me, actually, there was this guy, this Harvard guy who made a thesis in rap form.
No way.
I want to see that.
It was just really long, and I doubt it rhymed much, but he somehow made it into a rap. And I mean, if all the content's good,
Having read a lot of academic writing so far, I'm being incredibly impressed if you could somehow turn that into a rap, because that that takes skill. I mean, Eminem, fuck off, you're no longer the rap god. That's what he does doesn't take skill compared to making academic writing into a fucking rap.
Yeah. So yeah, this entire podcast has been my thesis.
Yeah.
Just letting you know now. Once we're at episode 100, that's when I'm going to turn it in and we're going to stop.
Nah, fair enough.
Episode 100 is just going to be you citing sources to the Eye of the Tiger song.
Yeah, episode 99 is the summary.
Yeah, the conclusion, which is somehow managed to synthesize all the other episodes into one coherent narrative.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it.
That's an interesting question. What is the thesis statement of Shit Island?
Oh, Jesus, yeah. Fuck. I always need help with the thesis statements, I gotta be honest. I don't know.
Anyway, permissiveness within sex and society surrounding sex, I suppose, is the topic for today. I think we kind of started talking about this before we started recording. I think it started with consent.
Oh, yes.
Right.
Like the age of consent and how it's different in different countries.
Yeah. So it's 16 over here in the Netherlands. Was it over there 15?
15, yeah.
And that just seems weird and wrong to me. 15, no, that's way too fucking... 15? What's wrong with you people? But then 16 here is like, well, yeah, 16, yeah. Then I dealt one time with someone who was from country where it was 17. They were like, what the fuck's wrong with you people?
Yeah.
16? That's way too fucking young. Like, how, you can't do that at 16 yet.
In Japan, it's 13.
13? No, that doesn't seem...
Gonna take a look. Let's see here. So in the U.S., the age of consent varies from state to state, but in Texas, it seems to be 17. And then in California, it seems to be 18.
18? Wow,
Yeah.
That's old.
I think the lowest one seems to be, is that Utah at 15?
All those Mormons fucking.
Oh, those goddamn Mormons.
The child brides.
Angola is less than 12.
What the fuck?
I'm not sure what less than 12 means.
Well.
Mexico is also less than 12.
That's okay, that's disturbing. But am I just saying that's disturbing because of some objective truth, or because the law here has just drilled into my head, 16? Not below 16. It's fucking gotta be 16, otherwise you're a fucking pedophile and Chris Hansen's gonna strangle you.
Interestingly, North Korea, age of consent is 17. South Korea, age of consent is 13.
Oh dear.
For me, this whole notion of consent and what constitutes, I guess, the age of consent is that it's so closely tied up with the concept of free will, and that's also something we talked about before we began, is that it assumes that you're a completely autonomous person at a certain age who is entirely capable of always making a rational decision on when you want to have sex with someone and when you don't want to have sex with someone. But if you ask anyone who's gone through sexual trauma or these situations where they experience a negative pressure or being only retroactively realizing that they've done something that made them feel just awful, then you know that it's not always reliable to know in the situation, especially if you're with someone you're unfamiliar with, if you actually meant to give consent in that situation. So it's interesting for me that we have this incredibly permissive culture about sexuality, all things sexuality, when it comes to fetishes and different fetishes, like race play would have been considered extremely taboo 15 years ago. You couldn't have found any videos. I dare anyone to find any videos from 15 years ago, pornographic of nature, that are about race play, because I don't believe, unless it was in some small black market, I don't believe that it really existed. But the internet and other factors have made it possible for these things to become very widespread. But then on the other hand, so we have this very permissive culture, which I think is ultimately a net positive. But on the other hand, we have the very sexually Puritan thing that's going on at the same time, with the aftermath of the Me Too movement, where you have these ever-changing new definitions of what constitutes harassment, or just in general inappropriate behavior towards people that you aren't closely connected to, in ways that also are very different now from when they were 15 years ago. So there's been this radical shift away from a more permissive nature of acting to people that are essentially strangers, but also a shift in how permissive we are in accepting extreme fetishes like BDSM and things where we inflict pain on each other, which wasn't acceptable 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
I just want to make a quick sign out. I really want the thumbnail for this episode to be, should the age of consent be lowered?
Oh God. I don't think I'm courageous enough.
Yeah,
I'm brave enough to
that
do
might
that.
not be a good idea.
Just for the record, I'm not in favor. I'm not in favor of pedophilia in any way. I don't think that I don't think that it should be any lower than 16 or 17, because I don't believe that adults should be having relationships with children. I don't think that's appropriate in any way, and I think it's harmful for their development and so on.
That actually brings up an interesting question. Even if the age of consent was 18, let's say,
right?
Like when you're 18, you are an adult.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
You're autonomous and you're rational, and you're your own being, and you can just make every decision you can for yourself. Are we then okay with a 70-year-old having sex with an 18-year-old?
Yeah.
And is that because then that would be more acceptable than an 18-year-old having sex with a 17-year-old?
In the eyes of the law, if you have an age of consent that's 18, then yes, that would be, in the eyes of the law, legally be considered more appropriate. If a 70-year-old had sex with in Denmark, 15-year-old, I think, it's either 15 or 16, I don't remember. But yeah, I mean, there are people who are in their 30s and 40s who troll for very, very young girls, and it's very uncomfortable. And in the end, I think it has to be something, this acceptance is something that we have to measure. And I don't think that necessarily having some sexual areas that are taboo is a bad thing. I think some things should be still be considered unacceptable. But right now the mood is very much everything is permissible, everything is good as long as you have consent. But I don't buy the premise that everyone has the, as I kind of mentioned before, I don't believe everyone has the faculties or the mental capacity rationally in the moment to know if they actually do want to give consent or not, or if they're doing it for the wrong reasons, or if they're being pressured into it.
Yeah, consent is a pretty grey area. A while ago I was reading the book Why Women Have Better Sex Under Socialism. Fun book, by the way. Would highly recommend. But it starts off with this anecdote of the writer meeting this friend, and her friend had been fighting with her husband because they weren't having enough sex, but the husband also controlled the fucking bank account. So when she wants to go out, with her friends to go to the movies, she needed some money to pay for the fucking movies. And it was like, well, we haven't had sex, so no, I'm not giving you anything, which is a bit awkward. So then she had to borrow some money from a friend, and she paid her back, and as she says at the end of the thing, I'll fuck my husband tonight and I'll pay you back tomorrow. That's technically, legally speaking, consent, but that's not really a healthy relationship.
Yeah. That reminds me of I have a acquaintance. We haven't really been friendly with each other, I suppose, but we know each other, and she has I don't want to be too specific because I know people can fucking find people, and I don't want to. I want to protect her privacy, but she has been speaking out about her past, and she, long story short, she used to be involved in sex work, which kind of just started with people, old men, mostly approaching her and offering her money to do things, and it escalated into people just really sleazy old dickbags paying to have sex with her. And she was of the age of consent. When she was 15 and then she was 16, and she had, like fucking 50-year-olds paying to have sex with her. And she has come to the conclusion, I suppose, now, all these years later, that consent is never something that can be bought with money. And I guess she's kind of made that like her thesis statement. She's become something of a anti-sex work activist, or just like, I suppose that's it. Kind of that you can't ever pay someone to consent to have sex with you. Consent has to be given when you're clear of mind, when you know what you're doing, and when you're doing it because you want to, not because you are somehow coerced to, either by an individual or by capitalism, where you have to do it to be able to pay rent, to be able to eat food.
Yeah, but I think that's a very interesting perspective. But ultimately, I think that I disagree, because I think the whole principle of consent as we know it today in liberal society is based on and very closely follows business interactions, where you have an arrangement, an agreement between two parties that shake hands on something being acceptable for a specific thing and a specific action that you're going to have made. And this type of business-like attitude towards sex is also something that indirectly I feel like Karl Marx also touched on in his writings when he talked about, I think it was in the Communist Manifesto, where he talks about how capitalism takes everything that was once holy and makes it something that can be measured and put a price tag on.
Yeah,
and
I think
was that in the Communist Manifesto? I think it's in that.
There might be something about that in there. I'm just thinking of Engels's On the Family and On Authority, where I believe he says something akin to that among the bourgeoisie, relationships have become financial unions. Like they've become fiscal relationships more so than anything based on love.
Right. And removing that element from it is extremely tragic in a lot of ways. And still you see it a lot today. When you ask people what constitutes something that attracts them to other people, a lot of people do weigh job or money very highly because it's important for them, because we still live in a society where if you don't have a lot of money, you can ultimately end up on the streets. Like you can ultimately have nothing. Mm-hmm. And that's a very scary prospect. And having to take care of someone who doesn't have the means or education to go out and do something, quote unquote, productive with their lives is a very unattractive future for a lot of people. And that does weigh into, so your job title has a lot to do with whether or not people do find you attractive, but also your wallet, which is terrible and sad, because ultimately love is antithetical to capitalism and the economy, because it's irrational. It's entirely irrational who you fall in love with or who you want to spend time with. It's completely like a chemical thing in your brain that has to do with how you vibe with someone, how they smell, how they talk to you, just in general, just how that person makes you feel. It doesn't have anything to do with business, or at least it really shouldn't. Like it should be something that just comes natural to people. And in a lot of countries, and I want to say in basically every liberal country, it does play a huge factor. And I think that's absolutely tragic.
Yeah.
I gotta say, next time I'm going on a date, I'm gonna ask for their CV, you know?
Yeah.
I want them to write me a resume first before, you know, I'm gonna let them buy me a drink.
What's your previous experience? Can I get a phone number for your previous employer?
Yeah, I once, yeah.
What
we have some references here.
A motivated application.
Yeah, both professional and sexual references would be nice. Yeah.
I'm
a resume,
I'm a people person. My greatest strength is I work very hard. My greatest weakness is I work too much.
Yeah. I'm a workaholic.
I'm a workaholic. I love working. work. I'm a good slave. I mean employee.
I like hypnotism clips on the internet.
Okay, that's a bit of a different thing, but why do those companies ask that question in the first place? Why do they give a shit like, hey, what's your weak point? Like, what the fuck do they want to know now?
Scared of balloons.
Yeah.
Yeah, I fucking hate clowns.
Yeah. On the off chance that you really hate cake.
Yeah, and yeah.
They can't
why
have
do they
non-cake
want to know
people.
this?
I don't fucking know.
What's the reasoning here?
I've had it explained to me that
I'm
they...
not going to fucking be honest there. Like, you know, I'm not going to say like, I'm secretly a fucking kleptomaniac, and you know, I'd like to do drugs in the fucking office bathroom.
Oh yeah, I have a huge heroin problem.
Yeah, that I would say that's my biggest weakness, my heroin addiction.
That's definitely
it is.
But I'm
there.
a good people's person, you know. I got a lot of experiences, you know, mostly from my heroin addiction.
Yeah.
Actually, I got a lot of experience from that.
You know,
so
I have
a good people's person.
I have experience being a salesman of certain
drugs,
items.
mainly heroin.
I was Lou Reed's heroin dealer in the 80s.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, but why do they want to know that?
It has to do with... It has to do with they want to know how good you are at criticizing yourself, because that's another thing, is they want to know that they can leave you unsupervised. So if you say I'm perfect, then they don't trust you. They don't trust you to be someone who can report accurately on themselves.
I feel like it just filters out people who can't lie well, because that seems to be not the goal here.
Absolutely, they want you to be able to lie, essentially.
Oh.
Or you know, the idea is that they want you to be someone who's capable of making up something that is inoffensive enough for you to still be in the running for the job, but also makes you seem like you can think of something quickly. So you can look busy, essentially. If you're good at looking busy, you're suited for any job.
That reminds me of, there's this, I think, anarchist economist. I think he's anarchist, I don't know. It's David Graeber. Look him up, he's kind of interesting. He has this whole concept of bullshit jobs.
Yeah.
Which are just jobs where you literally are just paid around to... You don't produce anything, you don't help anyone with anything, you're just there to make it seem like work is being done. But if your job disappeared tomorrow, society wouldn't notice it.
Yeah, and that's most jobs.
Yeah, like, I mean, that's not even us saying now about other jobs. That's people self-reporting about their own jobs, being like, yeah, my job should not exist in a sane society. But here I am.
Mark Fisher wrote a great article called Good for Nothing, where he talks about this nature of young people aimlessly drifting through jobs and not feeling like they have any purpose or there's no meaningful future for them, essentially. And he was one of them, and he talks about his own experiences of being one of those people that felt like they were literally good for nothing. And yeah, that again, like, a lot of people just aren't suited for, or, you know, compatible with this cubicle lifestyle, this office building lifestyle. They're just physically not capable of doing it because it's extremely unhealthy. It's very unnatural for us as humans to sit down for 9 hours in a sterile environment with terrible air conditioning and lighting that's unnatural and hurts your eyes looking at a screen.
Yeah. Type away at some fucking Windows 2003 Microsoft Word document.
Yeah. One quote from Marx from the German ideology that stuck with me is it goes something like, in communism it's possible for me to do one thing today and another tomorrow, to fish in the morning, to hunt in the afternoon, to rear cattle in the evening and criticize after dinner, without ever becoming fisherman, herdsman, or critic. Without, like, you never become whatever it is that you do all day.
Right. And that doesn't gel at all with this society we're creating now, where everyone has to be specialized in one very specific little box that fits into the greater whole, where you're just you end up extremely alienated because you're only working on one tiny little aspect of, like, a lot of the people that work in STEM end up repairing windmills or solar cells or something, but they only know how to repair one aspect of it. So they can't really even get to go out and fix the whole thing. They have to go out and fix their part and then drive away, and someone else comes and fix that part, and then, like, so it's I mean, some jobs are way more alienating than others. But there's so much of it.
A lot of commercial airline pilots are only trained to fly one specific plane.
Oh yeah.
Right. And there is a lot of that. I think they're phasing it out, but there's people who are trained at some flight schools only know how to fly Lockheed Martin planes. Is that what it's called? Lockheed,
I think.
Yeah, Lockheed Martin. And some only know how to fly Boeing. But I think they have to just continuously learn how to fly these new. It must be kind of a nightmare. But maybe it's like riding a bike. It's like a slightly different bike. I don't know.
Maybe.
Yeah, just adjust the seat a bit.
Yeah.
I was thinking about something else. Right, just that, like, if you teach under capitalism, you're a teacher. You can never just teach, but you have to become your profession.
Right.
Whereas under communism, you could say, I'm going to teach this afternoon, or I'm going to teach tomorrow, without ever really being a teacher, where that is the only purpose of your entire existence, the only thing you ever do.
Right, which is making people miserable and go down with stress and depression, because I'm extremely skittish myself, and I'm very good at stopping stuff if I feel like it's draining me emotionally to keep doing the same task over and over again. But even people who love doing the same stuff over and over again eventually run into that problem of feeling like you're stuck in a loop, or you're literally in a Groundhog Day situation where you're just doing the same thing over and over again, and you stop being a person and you just start being this robotic creature that repeats the same acts every day. And that's incredibly draining and very, very bad for your mental health. And that is probably one of the many, many reasons that depression and anxiety and disassociation are all diseases that are rapidly growing, especially now under austerity measures and reforms where people are getting fired. And it's getting harder and harder to enter the workforce because people are getting, again, fired and expected to produce more, even though we've never been more productive than we are right now. Yeah. It's turning into it's like, have you heard that analogy of, or that story that if you have a frog and you put it in boiling water, it jumps out. But if you put a frog in a kettle and then slowly heat the water, it'll stay in the water until it dies. Yeah. Because it doesn't notice that the water is getting hotter. I feel like that's a perfect analogy for how neoliberalism since the 80s has worked in all the social aspects and all the public aspects of Western society. We've consistently, over the last 30 or 40 years, cut public services in every Western country, expecting the services to stay the same, all the while them, of course, getting worse if you keep cutting funding to them. And then slowly but surely, the services die off or get worse until people demand that they're then replaced by private ones, which work better on the surface. So it's... We're being boiled alive, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
That's a depressing thought.
Reagan called it starving the beast.
Yeah.
The beast being public services, ladies and gentlemen.
Yep.
Yeah, sure. Got a bit off topic there.
Yeah, well, yeah. That's the magic of shit island.
We went from sex to Reagan. How the fuck did that happen?
Oh, Jesus, yeah.
He's just a sexy guy.
Yeah. Let's talk about Thatcher now.
Do you think they ever did it?
Oh, God, that's a horrifying mental image. Please don't do that again.
You have to wonder if they fucked at any point.
Oh, yeah, no, don't make me wonder. My skin is crawling.
Maybe one late night, they were discussing East Germany, maybe, some tensions, and they were just alone in the room. he gave her a back rub, and then things happened.
Moving on.
Yes, please.
So related to the talk about work under communism and how it would be very different to work.
Yeah, how will sex be under communism?
I think genuinely that is my question. What will love relations, sexual relations be like under communism?
Going back to the book I mentioned earlier, Why Women Have Better Sex Under Socialism. Seriously, go read it. It's really good.
Mm-hmm.
Well, as the title implies, it would be better. Well, thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
All right.
That will be all.
Well, that's an episode, I guess.
So the argument she makes is basically because women and people in general, really, there wasn't much research done was a little bit of research done towards the end into like homosexual couples, and only male homosexual couples, not women, but generally everyone benefited from because we had these socialist countries, and vary per country, but in general, with East Germany being the best, having these social programs where they didn't have to worry about hey, am I gonna lose my job and not have a house? They just had certain guarantees, they don't have to worry about housing, they don't have to worry about education, they don't have to worry about healthcare. And that just takes an incredible amount of stress off to these people, and also gives them a lot of free time, which they can use to, get to know people, get to know their partner better, communicate better with their partner, and thus also have better sex and better relationships, a lot healthier. I think they also, during the Cold War days, when we still had an East and West Germany, they did this comparative research thing and found out that women in East Germany had more orgasms than in West Germany. So that's the power of socialism for you. But that's a really good book, and it's really convincing argument, because it does make sense. If you're having to worry all day about how the fuck am I going to pay for my medical bills, it's not gonna if you're gonna have sex, then that's gonna it's gonna taint the experience a little bit, because you're kind of stressed.
Yeah. There's another aspect, which is that I do agree with the thesis of the book that have people worry less about, am I gonna have a house to live in tomorrow?
Just basic assistance.
Yeah. Then they're gonna have better sex. I think that's true. Another aspect is that East Germany, much like most of the socialist states of the Eastern Bloc during the Cold War, was quite prudish. I mean, the East German government controlled the media. They controlled what you saw on television and listened to on the radio. And there was no porn to speak of. The only porn that you could get your hands on would be smuggled in from West Germany. And, on television, there were movies and TV shows, but nothing that would
a lot of sex in there.
Yeah, nothing that would depict sexual things or sexualize women in that way, because East Germany was quite progressive when it came to women and feminism and trying to uphold men and women as equals, and thus not trying to turn women on television or in movies into something that is exclusively sexual or supposed to be a romantic interest for
but my question to that is it progressive, or is it a good thing to not show women in a sexual way? Does that help the liberation of women? Because I would say you have to balance it in a lot of ways. You have to the kind of
centrist.
No, but you have to show sexuality. You have to show sexuality, and you have to show us a healthy sexuality, not an oppressive sexuality. Because you can have very bad representation of a relationship between a man and a woman, or a woman or a woman, but you can also have a very healthy one where you have genuine love for one another, and you do things together that is essentially a good representation of them as a couple or someone that's in love. You don't have to have I completely disagree if your statement is that showing sexuality or showing women as being sexual is an inherently oppressive thing.
No, I was just bringing up the fact that East Germany did that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I misunderstood.
I want to make a quick note there. That, well, at least Germany did have a very strong dedication to equality between men and women. That did vary per these Eastern these socialist countries.
Definitely.
Like I think Romania and Albania specifically in the book are very much. Well, they did do some things. They also still had a very traditionalist society. So women, legally fine, maybe equal, but should really stay at home in the kitchen.
Romania, not to single out Romania. I have nothing against Romanians, but Romania during the Cold War was socially pretty conservative.
Yeah, same with Albania.
To say the least.
There's still, even in those countries, at least in the book describes, even there was improvements made for women because they still had all these social programs they could benefit from.
The Eastern Bloc had like child care provision and just...
I know all kinds of stuff. You read back at it now, it's like, that must have been a fucking paradise. Like, what?
Yeah, basically.
Like,
both
parents just had time off to raise their kid and they could just go back. What? That's incredible. What kind of paradise is this? Like, here's like, well, you shit out your baby yesterday. Why aren't you back at work?
Yeah,
losing money.
Yeah.
You're not making profit for the company.
Yes, come on. What the fuck's going on? What's wrong with you? Don't you care about the future of this company? What has society ever given this company? Why does the offspring of society, come before the future profits of this company? Come on. We're getting it here. See the bigger picture.
I have a lot of questions about sexuality under a 21st century socialist state in Europe because I think it's incredibly interesting and I honestly don't have the answers. I think I saw a speech by Angela Nagle, the Irish political writer who wrote Kill All Normies. And she talks about how these last 30 or 40 years since the acceleration of technology and pornography has sped up so much that we have fewer and fewer children again. Like there was a wave of decline in birth rates from the invention of the birth control in the 60s and 70s, which was ultimately a good thing because then parents could decide when they wanted to have children. But there's also been a new decline and a phenomenon which she calls, I believe it was post-horniness, where she says that we're not really horny for each other anymore the same way as people that we were before the internet gave us pornography, because now it's entirely possible for you, because there's so much catered pornography out there, to satisfy yourself to such a degree that you don't need a partner, that a partner would be nice, but you don't need a partner. And that dynamic has created this whole new dynamic of just a growing number of people who consider themselves single and who don't necessarily feel any pressing need to get into a relationship, because they don't feel that extreme urge or need to get into a relationship to fulfill their urges, essentially. So now it would be so interesting to see how would a socialist state in Europe deal with that, because ultimately I think in order to change this, you have to, I think, kind of deal with pornography. You have to deal with, if you want people to have more sex and enjoy sex more and be together, is pornography a hindrance to that in some way? I wonder.
I think it's a bit of a red herring, in my opinion. I don't think it's because we have porn that we no longer want to, hang out with each other. I think it's also just like, we're just busy with other shit. We have like work, we have like student loans, we have all kinds of other shit which we have to deal with. On top of that, like a proper relationship, that's a lot of work. You might just not have time and energy left after all the other shit you already have to do to also do that.
But the work week has only progressively, in the Western world at least, gotten shorter since the beginning of the 1800s. It's only gotten shorter in the Western world, fewer hours. Not that we work less hard or that the work we do is any easier, but we theoretically should have, on average, more time off than we did in the 1950s, at least.
Well, the cost of living has gone up, but wages have stayed the same. So I feel like that would add a lot to the stress of, the millennial generation and younger.
Absolutely, yeah.
I think it'd be better to first tackle, that situation before we start banning the porn. I think there's bigger things here. Maybe I can sort of see the argument. I think porn is just like a solution to the problem caused by the really alienating society, very stressful society that we're living in. This is just a quick way to release some stress because you're constantly stressed and you don't really have energy left for a proper fucking family stuff.
Yeah.
This reminds me of a scene in Twin Peaks when one of the characters, they're all teenagers. One of the characters starts smoking, and the character says, "Why are you smoking?" And then she says, "Because I'm stressed out." And he says, "So when did you start being stressed out?" And she said, "When I started smoking." So she's smoking because she's stressed out from smoking, essentially. And I think a lot of that can also be applied to pornography, in the sense that it's like, okay, so you're lonely, so you're watching pornography. Are you lonely because you're watching pornography, or are you watching pornography because you're lonely?
Yeah.
It's that thing, and I'm not condemning pornography. I'm just questioning if it's maybe, I mean, if it's maybe has a more sinister impact on us than we maybe even realize, and if it's compatible with a socialist society. I don't know.
I have two thoughts on that. I think the first one is whether or not it's desirable to have porn and to let your citizens have access to porn in a 21st century European socialist society, hypothetically, if we were to create a socialist state somewhere in Europe.
If Bernie comes to Sweden and takes over.
Oh yeah, sure. I think my first thought is that, well, we have the internet. People are gonna watch porn. I think we can just look to Russia or China to see how well they're doing trying to block access to certain websites. And I think, if people really want to go on a certain kind of website, they will. And I think people would just dislike the government for trying to block stuff. Like the UK is, they're in the process of banning porn right now, for conservative, for socially conservative and prudish reasons, not for socialist reasons or whatever. But essentially, there's going to be a new law where you have to
give you have to send a picture of your passport, or whatever
your
it was.
Or some kind of ID to prove that you're 18 before you're allowed to watch porn. Which essentially means that no one is going to fucking do that, and they're just going to use a VPN to get around it.
Get a VPN or go to a site which is not protected.
Yeah. Find some fucking obscure ass foot fetish site or something.
Very obscure websites on the internet, let me tell you.
I wonder whose fucking job it is to be in the UK government and try to find all of the porn websites.
Yeah, go through all the websites with Let's Play on it and need your ID for this.
Yeah. Anyway, my second thought was on what you said, Peter, that people who watch porn don't feel the urge to go out and find a partner. To me, and that might just be to me, but to me that sounded kind of good, that if you want to get in a romantic relationship, you do so because you want to be in a romantic relationship, not because you want to satisfy your sexual urges.
That's a good point, actually.
I feel like if the only reason that you're looking for a romantic relationship is because you want to be satisfied sexually, you might not be ready for a romantic relationship, because a relationship is about a lot more than just sex.
Yeah, but I get what you mean, and that's a good point. But the initial attraction in a relationship is ultimately sexual. It does have the element of being attracted to one another in one way or another. There's an attraction between one party and another party. And I'm not saying that no one is coupling up because of pornography. I'm just saying that we don't have the same urge that people from our grandparents' generation did. If you look at how young they were when they got married, which of course had something to do with the expectations of society, but definitely also had something to do with them definitely having a desperate urge to find someone to be with, which, made them, I guess, couple up earlier, but also having more children.
The only way you can have sex, is in marriage, then, time to get married.
Yeah, and then you have sex, and then you get tired of it, and then you get divorced.
Then you're stuck with your fucking wife for the next 30 years. Am I right? Sitcoms from the 70s?
Take my wife, please.
Yeah, Jesus. What are the divorce rates for that generation?
Very low, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, that's probably also because of the general taboo around divorce as a concept. Yeah.
Be illegal to get a divorce, and then
that too. Like there were a lot more hurdles to getting a divorce back in the day as well.
Yeah, it wasn't as easy.
Yeah, but I guess my complaint isn't coming from a socially conservative point of view, which is that everyone should get married. It's the issue I'm raising is the loneliness that comes with being single for an extended period of time, or being lonely. Because one of the things that we are dealing with a lot in society, especially in the West, is this, and also actually in Asia, in Japan, is this existential loneliness that a lot of especially younger people feel, where if you're dealing with a situation where large swaths of men and women aren't actively looking for a partner, then you also have a smaller market and more competition between those that are looking for partners. So it's very easy to get rejected and to also be excluded from the sexual community in the neighborhood. So I mean, we at some point in society we have to deal with these young people who are angry that they can't find a girlfriend or a boyfriend, essentially because people aren't horny the way they used to be. And honestly, I think a lot of the alt-right hate that's coming out at the moment is sexual in nature. I think it's people who are angry that women are liberated or men are hyper-masculinized because they feel like they have to compete with those people, or they feel like it's threatening their masculinity or femininity, and it's making it so that they can't have a partner, a meaningful partner. I don't mean to laugh at it, but it's just like, it's so sad to think that's where they think they are. And I don't know if we're going to solve that through drastic measures on the internet or dealing with pornography, or if we're going to give everyone a sex robot. I don't know. I'm just saying we have to take it seriously.
I'm definitely down with the sex robot idea now. just saying, just putting that on the table.
It could just be me
make the record show this. This has to be cleared, it has to be preserved.
I mean, I'm entirely open to the possibility that I'm just not very woke, and that I'm. But I do think that it is a serious thing that so many people
what?
are sexually
White
frustrated.
Guy from Denmark, not woke? What? No fucking way.
I mean, I see where you're coming from, and I think I agree.
Hey.
I think my main concern is, I don't know. I'm just kind of thinking in more practical terms, what exactly can be done about all of these lonely people. And I do feel like,
as a social planner, I have some ideas, but ultimately it's all hampered by the fact that we are living under a capitalist society, and the only solutions I could offer are for people who are like middle or upper class. If you're lower class, I have nothing for you, because that's society.
And it is largely people from the working class and middle class who where it becomes such an isolating experience for them that they do get angry. And you could argue that they have a very good point in being angry, and that they have been marginalized by society and sexually excluded because of their capital and their standing in the class relations, which is again a very fair complaint to have in a society where you actually are contributing, but you don't feel like you're being seen by anyone.
Yeah. I just want to make clear by it. It's not that I don't want to help lower class people. It's just
no.
The only solutions available to me as a would-be city planner are things which only middle and upper class people would have time or money to participate in. Yeah,
the options that have been presented to you have been catered to the upper classes.
Exactly. Maybe middle class, but not lower class. There's just for almost all these things, it's either money or time, and that's just something a lot of these people don't have for this kind of stuff. Like, I can't help you then. Like, it's just either up the social security programs and whatnot, or we're gonna have these people around. It's one of the two.
That's what I was gonna say. Is essentially what my solutions boil down to is social programs and more public spending. Yeah. And I used to live in a neighborhood in Gothenburg where there was a big protest about a library that was being closed down, and the argument from the municipality was basically that it costs too much, and the counter argument was that if you get rid of this library, there will be nowhere in this city district for young people to just exist and like hang out and do something together. Like, there's a fucking closed down bingo hall place. Like, there's just nowhere for young people to be. There's a store where you can buy groceries, and there's your home, your apartment.
Right. Yeah.
And basically, these people were just calling for the city to build more things here, like build parks, just like activities for young people to be. Because what ends up happening is these young people have nothing to do all day but hang out on the streets and on the fucking street corner, and a lot of them end up doing criminal activities or doing drugs.
I've seen the same here.
Nothing else to do. Or you might stay at home and watch porn and be lonely if there's nothing to do in your area.
Yeah, or we now watch fucking Ben Shapiro videos if you really go down the rabbit hole.
Ben Shapiro videos.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's. I think it's you make an excellent point. You need to have activities, and also there's so much hate that these people internalize from the perception, and I think ultimately it leads people away from realizing the class relations that are very inherent to this problem of loneliness, where you do see people who come from working class families suffer way more from it because they're not privy to the same privileges that come with being middle class or upper middle class.
Yeah, like I said, all my solutions to loneliness I can only apply to middle and upper class people. As a city planner, that is.
What are some of those solutions, by the way? I'm curious.
It's like basic shit. It's like organized sort of like community organizations. It could be like, a chess club, or you could organize like a barbecues or whatever. It's
The best place to get laid I've found is a chess club.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, but like basically, it's like organizing these kinds of like social gatherings of, it could be one-off events, could be like more structural things, could be like community gardens or whatever. But these are all things which generally, like, if you don't have money or a lot of time, you're not going to be able to go to these things. And that's generally not things which lower class people have a lot of.
Mm-hmm.
It reminds me of Lee Harvey Oswald, the man who shot John F. Kennedy. He immigrated to the Soviet Union, and he eventually left and went back to America because he was bored. Because there was, according to him, it's not entirely true, but it might have been true in his area. There was nothing to do. The only activities that existed were party-sponsored dances and that kind of thing, like party meetings and party activities, and like there wasn't anywhere to spend your time other than sitting at home.
And have sex, have wonderful socialist sex.
Oh yeah.
well, you couldn't fucking meet anyone.
Well. I should have gone to one of these fucking party meetings then. There you go.
Yeah, you go to the party.
Like the party was generous enough to provide these meetings, and he didn't make use of it. Like, what more does he expect here? It's just getting unreasonable.
Yeah.
Fucking go to a meeting, talk about. I mean, what would you talk about? Fucking activities in your city, like, the comrade blah 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 from the Central Committee of the Ukrainian Eastern District has come visit us, and he gives us greetings, and we have to prepare for May Day, and
hell yeah,
like, great, who wants to bang?
Hi, I'm Hans. I'm looking for a hot socialist girl to have hot sexual intercourse that is socialist with me.
Having gone, I used to be a member of the Dutch Socialist Party, and I've gone to a lot of their party meetings. They are incredibly boring.
Yeah.
You're not going there to get laid. I'm afraid I have to disappoint people.
I've gone to 2 social democratic congresses, and they are a hell to get through because all the members get to raise issues, and they get to speak for 15 minutes on every issue, and then people get to make counter arguments, and then everyone votes, and there's hundreds of these things, and it takes a full weekend, and it's just you sitting down and just like looking at each other and being like, And then like people spend weeks in advance in like their local orgs talking about what they're going to vote together, and it's just I can't imagine anything more boring.
And then there's the problem, specifically like the Dutch, culturally. Like when we have these meetings, right? When the meeting is done, the meeting isn't actually done. We hang around afterwards, right? But normally other people just have a beer and talk to each other about, other shit. We'll have a beer and keep talking about the fucking meeting. So you can't even think like, okay, I gotta sit through this boring meeting, but afterwards, the parts are going to get going, I'm gonna meet these cute girls. No! After the meeting is done, you're gonna sit there and discuss the fucking meeting. You can have a beer while you're discussing it, but you're not gonna fucking have fun. No fucking fun.
Remember when we voted on that thing?
Criticism for the meeting?
Yeah, that's it's terrible fucking experience.
Comrades, I must share with you my self-criticism and how I raised the issue of painting banners and putting up posters.
That will happen. Unironically, yes, that happens.
Great.
Yes, it's torture. You don't go to these places to get laid. Not to say something controversial, but I'm starting to understand where Lee Harvey Oswald was coming from.
But people do go to those places to get laid. A lot of sex happens.
And they can get very rapidly disabused of the notion that's going to be a successful strategy.
Well,
Yeah. I might have seen some cute girls at a socialist party, but, I gave up any notion of, ever meeting them when I went to these meetings, because fuck me, yeah.
You remember, have you seen The Wall, the movie The Wall?
No.
I've seen it, yeah, it's good.
Yeah, his wife goes out on, she joins like a socialist cause in the movie, and she falls in love with the socialist, I guess, like political advocate, and I feel like that's just Roger Waters projecting that, like, yeah, if I was a politician, I'd get all the hottest chicks.
Yeah. Actually, no, because I've been watching It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. One of the first episodes, they have this abortion rally thing and this counter rally.
Yeah.
And two of the guys go to different rallies, both with the intention of like, hey, there's all these cute girls here. Like, fuck yeah, abortion rights are great. Hey, are you free this Saturday? Just like, that's the only reason there. It's
yeah,
brilliant.
I saw that episode actually.
That's great.
It's great. It is great.
It's a good series. Go check it out.
Be aware that there's no good people in that show.
It is extremely problematic. Everyone there is a fucking dickhead.
Yeah, but it's joyously problematic.
Yeah, it's beautiful. They're not presented as good people. No, they're presented as horrible pieces of shit. And, let's keep that in mind.
So, from sex to Reagan, back to sex, and then It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I'd say this has been a good visit to Shit Island.
That's good. This is a good glimpse into our minds, I think.
Yeah.
And this great episode has been brought to you by our patrons over at patreon.com /Azure Scapegoats. And those patrons are Joshua Cheeseman, Nyun Chung Meng, and Emlem.
So thank you for listening.
Yeah, thank you for listening. I just want to make a quick note. Use a condom.
Sure.
Use a condom. They're good.
And get consent.
Drive fast, take chances. Don't use a condom.
Also think deeply about what consent means, but also get consent.
Yeah.
Also get tested every now and then. Condoms can fail, so get tested every now and then.
What is this, a PSA?
Yeah, we're just doing this.
It is now.
It is now.
We have to counterbalance it after, recommending people go watch Always Sunny in Philadelphia, The karmic balance has to be restored.
True.
So go watch that series and use a condom.
All right.
Have sex while watching that series and use a condom.
Tell us about how that went. Send us
Let
an
us
email.
know.
Bye.
Send us email, people. Bye.
Okay, fine.